All right, so it is Wednesday, December 11th. It is 4:48 a.m. in the morning, and as far as I know, no one in a contract and fee through Theta has any intention of committing suicide at this time, 4:48 a.m. And we just got back from taking a walk. That is, little early one brings rain in midsummer, and a contract and fee through Theta. It's little one brings rain. Little early one who bring. Oh wow, I can't even remember my own dog's name. uh, little early one brings rain in midsummer. Uh, has not had a walk in almost a year because he's 11 and a half and has arthritis, and he's on new arthritis medication, gabapentin, and some pain reliever whose name I can't recall, but he's been doing better. So I thought, maybe I can take him out for a walk. Oh, and it is 26 degrees here in the beautiful city of Albuquerque. So we just got back from a brisk walk outside in the dark, and little early one brings rain in midsummer, and I like taking walks at that time early in the morning, and when it's cold like that. And the reason is because we encounter a lot less riffraff, and and that's always a good thing. Sometimes you just and need a little calm from the storm, so to speak, and I guess we get enough of the storm just from ThermostatAnon et al. So don't really need that beyond the work that we have to do to keep our art and our creativity afloat in this censored America that was once a democracy. So this is going to be installment number 25 of In the Grip of ThermostatAnon, which, as everyone who's following the series realizes, is a justification of the video and a disclaimer, a disclaimer of the YouTube claim that the narrative violates their policy on harmful conspiracy theories, which we've been showing again and again and again, almost frame by frame. Well, actually, yes, frame by frame. It does exactly the contrary. It points to harmful conspiracy theories and the results that those conspiracy theories have on the terrorist community, I guess you can call it that, and those involved, in the January 6th insurrection, as well as on the shape of our current government. And that's what we're going to do today. We've been talking about Chad Wolf and his various activities as a Secretary of Homeland Security for the evil empire in the George Lucas-verse. And his duties, in that regard and in that role, are multiple. The separation of children and parents, migrant, children and parents, and the placement of children in tiny little cages, and then abandoning them outside the United States. I guess it's their responsibility to find their parents, and we've talked about that and his disclaiming of that. This disinformation policy that claims that these families were going to be reunited before they were removed from the United States, which of course wasn't true. We'll look at that again today, and then his role as a military authoritarian who deploys extreme force against citizens of the United States, and in particular, we were looking at the force that was utilized against those, protesting the murder of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020 by Derek Chauvin, and the failure of the police department in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as well as the Justice Department to adequately address the numbers and numbers, literally, dozens of African American citizens who were murdered by the police in 2020 and before then, right? And of course, we addressed the fact that Trump had been railing against Black Lives Matter since 2016, at least, and perhaps prior to that, but at least since Colin Kaepernick started taking a knee at those ceremonies that played the national anthem, and escalated like the assault on these protesters, and created a situation in which the violence was escalated by the amount of force that Trump's deployment of military and excessively armed police officers. As that violence escalated, so did the reaction to the violence, and as even the mayor, whose name I can't recall off the top of my head, unfortunately, at this moment, but the mayor of Portland, Oregon, said pretty much the same thing. Please withdraw the troops. You don't understand what you're doing. You're replacing cause for effect. The violence has escalated, since the show of force, right, against peaceful protesters. And then we were, comparing, ironically, like the extreme force, used to one could say, put down, right, the activists involved in Black Lives Matter, and the protests of the pipeline that violated the treaty of the, and I don't know how to say it, Anishinaabe peoples. That was also part of the protest in Portland at that time. And of course, Trump wasn't interested in either the fact that an excessive number of African Americans were being murdered by the police, nor in the fact that Native American treaties were being violated, so that he could, as he puts it, drill, baby, drill, and I doubt that that will change in the new term. I don't think anybody expects it to. So we can expect more treaty violations, and we can probably also expect an unexamined support of police violence. I think he actually has referred to the positive, aspects of police violence against citizens of the United States on a number of occasions. Talked about how he'd like to, beat people up and this and that and the other thing, and deploy forces against this one and that one and his perceived enemies, which we pointed out in one of the frames, are referred to as, he would, from his expressions, scum and thugs, right? And of course, now we're not scum. Well, I guess as I said, we still are scum and thugs, but now we're also, enemies from within. The Joseph McCarthy expression. So that's what we've been doing. That's what we're going to continue to look at today, and we may, get a little bit beyond that, but we'll go ahead and see what happens. All right. So all of that having been said, let's go ahead and close this out and begin with this image. Okay. So on this side, someone wearing a pair of Nikes, I guess, stepped in some, I don't know if that's tar or dog poop or gum, but you can see they've got something stuck to their shoe. You can see the shoe, it says on the Nike symbol, it says BLM, and that's of course Black Lives Matter. And then you see Chad Wolf's little face there in whatever substance it is that that Nike shoe just stepped in, and pulling up from the pavement. Little Chad Wolf, that's on this side. And I don't think that really needs an explanation, does it? You know how when you walk and you step in something and it's you didn't expect to, and it's yucky. And in this instance, it's Chad Wolf. Over here, he's standing by one of Trump's new lovely, border walls, and he's holding his fingers together, and he's being interviewed. He loves attention, and he's saying, "We're going to round up everybody who doesn't agree with us, and put them in tiny cages even smaller than my hands." And that expression, first it seems just to refer to asylum seekers, dreamers, and others, coming into the United States. Now Trump wants to evoke birthright citizenship. So those individuals who were, born in the United States will now also be included in the roundup, I guess. And then, anyone who's an enemy from within, also, gets included in the roundup because, as I mentioned yesterday, and that's Caspar Hauser's Learning Curve chewing on a bone in the background. And as I mentioned yesterday, right, the protesters in Portland, their constitutional rights were violated in a number of different ways, but one of the ways was that unmarked vans would pull up and drag people in and basically cart them away, to cages, cages even smaller than Chad Wolf's hands. That's hyperbole, another figure of speech. I don't know if we've really discussed hyperbole. I know we've discussed a lot of different forms of irony and satire and sarcasm and sardonicism and other figures like synecdoche and metonymy and metaphor, but I don't know if we've really talked about hyperbole. So just to clarify what hyperbole is hyperbole is basically just simply exaggeration. So the cages are in fact not smaller than Chad Wolf's hands. That's hyperbole, but you can see how small the hands are. And the comparison to the smallness of Chad Wolf's, hands, eyes and or heart is a hyperbole of how small these cages are that human beings are kept in after they're, separated from children from their parents and parents from their children before they're deported separately. Let's move on. Let's see if I can move on. Here we go. All right. Here, Chad Wolf is holding Donald Trump's head between his tiny little hands and saying, "Make MAGA Therian again." Of course, it's the pun on the great beast, right? The beast that is referred to in Revelation. The beast is great, and so mega and Therian just means beast in Greek, and the MAGA here plays with it, so MAGA Therian, mega Therian, you get the idea. And then the head is upside down, and on Trump's forehead is I guess the mark of the beast, or the number of the beast. Is it the mark or the number? I guess, in this case, if it's stamped on there, I guess it's both a mark and a number. No pun or intended reference to the Marco Hatfield courthouse, or maybe it is. I'm not sure. MMTA. I guess that's Make MAGA Therian again, the great beast, and the 999, right? Which, if we turn Trump's head upside down, would be the 666, is of course also a reference to, as we mentioned either the day before yesterday or yet. Oops, that's not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see something else. Let's see if I could. let's do that. Oh, I just had it. I guess I closed that window out. Here we go. All right, the 666, in addition to being the a reference to the Megatherion or Magatherion, depending on how you like it, is also a reference to the 666 children whom the Department of Homeland Security had separated from their family members and then failed to locate the family members. So basically left, isolated and abandoned 666 children. Think about that if you have children and they were in another country and you were separated from them and then you couldn't locate them, what that must feel like. I'm sure that, depending on your politics, you'll either have an empathetic reaction to that, or you'll just say, well, they don't deserve the kind of treatment that I deserve because I'm not doing anything wrong, and it's all their fault for wanting security, safety, and economic stability. How dare they seek shelter and safety in the United States. But in any case, depending on your politics, you can decide how you want to feel about that. In May 2018, Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department officially implemented the policy that led to large-scale separation of migrant families, although the Trump administration had been ramping up family separations throughout the previous year. The next month, as the public outcry over family separations grew, Wolf advised an external affairs official on how to paint a sunnier picture of separations for members of Congress who were visiting DHS facilities, Department of Homeland Security facilities, including by focusing on the process to reunify families. So there was a kind of propaganda machine created around the visit of the Congress members, and to relieve, right, the public outcry, and to focus on the process of reunifying families. Unfortunately, that wasn't much more than pure propaganda attempt, as the next paragraph explains. This was a misleading message, as the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General later found. Department of Homeland Security was unprepared to implement the family separation policy and, quote, struggled to identify, track, and unify families. So basically, once they separated the families were separated and had to find each other, if they ever did, once they were deported to wherever they were deported to. And, for some of these individuals, that wasn't even the country from which they originally began their journey, right, to seek shelter in the United States, right? So may have been deported to a country that they had no familiarity with. Well, good luck finding your kids and little kitties. Good luck finding mom and dad. More than 2 years later, court documents revealed that the government had still failed to locate the families of, and here's the number we were looking for, 666 children whom they separated from family members. When those ongoing separations were revealed in October 2020, Wolf claimed that the parents had, quote, chosen to separate their children from themselves, right? And we talked about what that might mean, chosen to separate their children from themselves. Of course, that's a complete and utter misrepresentation of what happened. I guess it's supposed to mean if those damn foreigners dare to bring their children across the border into our country, it's their choice what we do with them afterwards. Okay, Merry Christmas, Chad. Let's see. So that's about all on this one. There's the 666 upside down, looks a lot like 999. And should not perhaps be confused with a BRE question. let's see, did I miss one? Oh, okay, here we are. All right, so let's see. I think this one, this is, okay, so the quotation, in the corners, and then I don't know what this word, it looks like an N, and then thank you, but I think it has the Zorro reading, because the thank and the you go together, and then that would, remember we had one, and for some reason, it was a time has eyes reference, I believe, but for some reason it failed to follow the Zorro rule, right? Like forming the Z, like as in our hero Zorro, fighting the forces of authoritarianism. I don't know what that N means. So whatever that N means, and then the N, thank you. No, thank you. No, I don't know. Oh, yeah, probably. Zorro, I guess, is saying no, thank you to what Christopher C. Miller is holding here, MAGA Therian Forever, and that's of course the Sith sign. So again, once again, we are in the George Lucaverse, and I guess Christopher C. Miller offers a good example of that contrast that we were making between the amount of force that was utilized to put down the protesters in Portland, and the lack of adequate security that was deployed on January 6th. Let's take and Christopher C. Miller was largely responsible for that. So let's take a look. So we've talked about the types of force that were utilized in Portland, and mentioned that there's a striking contrast to the January 6th situation. And of course, the reason is because Trump don't like Black Lives Matter folks, and Trump likes these January 6th rioters and insurrectionists because he wants to be the president, no matter what, whether he wins an election or loses an election. So he lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton, and he got to be the president, and he lost the popular vote and the electoral vote to Joe Biden, but he still wanted to be the president. And now he's barely won the popular vote, but not by a majority, merely by a plurality, and is calling it a mandate of God or something. And but in any case, let's take a look at this article. Is the wiki article on Christopher C. Miller, and it basically outlines what I'm referring to here, his relationship to the January 6th United States Capitol attack. On January 3rd, 2021, all 10 living former defense secretaries released an open letter in which they expressed concerns about a potential military coup to overturn the election results. All 10 living former defense secretaries, okay? The letter warned public officials and Miller by name, Miller by name, that they would face grave consequences if they violated the Constitution. That same day, Trump had a conversation with acting Defense Secretary Miller, Christopher C. Miller, about which Miller later testified to the House Committee on Oversight and Reform during a May 2021 hearing into the January 6th riot. Miller testified that he told the president that Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser had placed a request for unarmed personnel to reinforce local law enforcement. He testified that Trump responded, "Fill it and do whatever was necessary to protect the demonstrators that were executing their constitutionally protected right." Right. So protect the demonstrators, not the Capitol, right? They were executing their constitutionally protected rights. But that wasn't the attitude in Portland, was it? And it wasn't when Chad deployed his troops. On January 5, Miller issued orders which prohibited deploying DC Guard members with weapons, helmets, body armor, or riot control agents without his personal approval. On January 5th, Secretary of the Army Ryan McCarthy issued a memo placing limits on the District of Columbia National Guard. Major General William J. Walker, the commanding general of the D.C. National Guard, later explained all military commanders normally have immediate response authority to protect property, life, and, in my case, federal functions, federal property and life. But in this instance, I did not have that authority because of Christopher C. Miller. Miller's actions on January 6th faced scrutiny after rioters breached the Capitol Police perimeter. Miller waited more than 3 hours before authorizing the deployment of the National Guard. Miller did not provide that permission until 4:32 p.m. after assets from Virginia had already entered the district and Trump had instructed rioters to go home. Miller testified that he was trying to avoid a repeat of the Kent State shootings. Interesting. The only force that authoritarian leaders seem to like deploying is against individuals who threaten their authoritarian rule, right? As is the case in Syria with Assad, right? You can be you can crack down as hard as you want to against anybody who threatens your right, to use whatever force you choose. But as far as individuals that terrorize the country on your behalf, that's just fine. All right, so do we need to say more? Testifying under oath to the United States House Select Committee on January 6th attack, Miller affirmed that President Donald Trump told him he should give okay, so we already talked about that. D.C. Mayor Bowser, any support requested, and Trump guessed that they would need 10,000 troops on January 6th to contain the pro-Trump protesters. Miller also said that Trump never gave him a formal order to have 10,000 troops ready to be deployed on the Capitol on January 6th. And I guess that's the reason that, Martian Manhunter in his conversation with the other general informed him that, I can't remember how many were available, but it was either 25,000 or it was 2,500 individuals that the Guardians of the Galaxy and other members of both the Marvel universe and the DC universe had gathered together, who were loyal patriots and who could, I think, linear sequence, up to, and I can't remember the number now. It was kinetic energy prime, I think, and I'm not sure what number that represents, but I remember the conversation, and I remember it taking place in code. So if anybody has, any information about that code, they can either keep it to themselves because it's probably still classified, or they can let us know utilizing space-time travel communication coordinates so that it's coded into a different code system and maintains its security behind whatever it is, 3 locked doors of 3 locked metaphorical doors of cryptography, right? According to Miller's testimony, he did not speak with Trump at any time during the Capitol attack. I didn't need to. I had all the authority I needed, and I knew what had to happen, he said. Miller rejects the notion that the Pentagon dragged their feet protecting the Capitol, calling that notion, and then I won't utilize that word in case, ThermostatAnon wants to censor us for it. And he insists that they had their game together. After reassessing what happened on January 6th, Miller acknowledged something they were unaware of before. It seemed clear there was an organized conspiracy with assault elements. But they were aware of it, right? Because it says up here that... it says up here, all 10 living former defense secretaries released an open letter in which they expressed concerns about a potential military coup to overturn the election results. The letter warned public officials and Miller by name that they would face grave consequences if they violated the Constitution. Okay, so, well, he did know. But you can say whatever you want, and you can lie as much as you want, and as long as your fan base believes your lies, then they'll continue to do so because they believe what they want to believe, not what is presented as factual information and provided with evidence. Okay, so I think that's all we really need to say about. Oh, maybe also this. That he seems to be, continue to have an influence on Donald Trump. From this article, which is titled "Who is Influencing Trump's Foreign Policy Views," it mentions Miller, a former Green Beret, was given an ambitious lame duck agenda for the Pentagon ahead of Biden's inauguration. The Pentagon was tasked with withdrawing U.S. troops from Afghanistan, Syria, and Somalia. And of course, all of that stuff is like what Trump liked to play out as blaming Biden for all of that. But he had already initialized the withdrawal, to begin with. So it's kind of funny. But Miller faced widespread criticism for his failure to approve the deployment of the National Guard to contain the January 6, 2021 pro-Trump insurrection at the U.S. Capitol for more than 3 hours after the Pentagon became aware of the breach. Miller said he feared creating the greatest constitutional crisis since the Civil War by deploying active duty U.S. troops. Well, that's really interesting because that's almost exactly the same language that the 10 living former defense secretaries utilized to suggest just the opposite, right? They expressed concerns about a potential military coup to overthrow the election results. The letter warned public officials and Miller by name that they would face grave consequences if they violated the Constitution. Okay, so he seems to be saying that he ignored the advice because he feared violating the Constitution. But the Constitution was, for some reason, everybody was quite comfortable violating the Constitution in relationship to the rights of those protesting the murder of George Floyd, but very hesitant to violate the Constitution in terms of the rights, in quotation marks, of armed insurrectionists, from a number of different white supremacist and white, domestic terrorist organizations who were storming the Capitol on January 6th. Go figure, right? All right. And it is Agent K and Agent J. And Agent J is saying, how in the intergalactic, and then we put it this way so that we wouldn't get censored, but I don't think it's such a bad, I don't think it's really such a bad word. Hell, how in the intergalactic hell is this Sith? And I guess if nobody has noticed the pun before, if you reorganize the letters of Sith, you have a different word, right? And it rhymes with wit or twit, and we were probably playing with that, anagrammatical. Is it an anagrammatical pun or animal, or just an anagrammatical wordplay? Anyway, we were probably playing with that. How in the intergalactic hell is this Sith's idea of America great again? And then DMNA, and we had we had BAMN before, and we couldn't figure out what we once meant by that, what the acronymic reference was. I know that, you know, damn is something that that Agent J, you know, says you know, quite well, and then Tommy Lee Jones, in the character of K, is saying, hold on there, Slick. I'm just about to erase all your emotional memories for the last 4 years. And then he says, sure, but shouldn't we take the shades off for that first? And I guess what he's referring to is the 4 years of Trump, who produced, you know, for some of us, you know, quite a bit of cultural trauma, having to you know, see this guy in the news, and his attempts to, you know, destroy, you know, America as it exists as a democracy, and has, you know, for quite some time. I guess, you know, America as we know it from the mid 1930s at least, and they have this, you know, in Men in Black they have this memory erasing flashlight that flashes and takes away your memory, and I guess you can set it for a certain amount of time, and they're going to erase their memories of 4 years of Donald Trump presidency. I guess there's no point in that, since we have him again starting in 2025, January 20th. But it was a good dream. And here, of course, is our friend. What we were referring to him as, gosh, no, I can't remember, but Perturbation Morlock. We had a new word for him that we coined just recently. There's Trump doing his like weird lip thing, teeth thing. Mr. Murdoch has the, or Morlock, you know, has the Sith eye there. Sith eyes, MASA, make America Sith again, I think. And looking good, Rup. The in case you don't know who Perturbation Morlock is, he owns the New York Post and Fox News and a whole bunch of pretty heavily right-wing Australian newspapers. He's and has been, right, a threat, not only to American democracy and an enemy of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the 31st century for that reason, but an enemy of fair labor practices in the UK and in Australia and other places, racist and misogynist and just and Mr. Burns lookalike, I guess. If anybody remembers from The Simpsons, Mr. Burns, I think he just divorced Jerry Hall. I guess Jerry Hall got a little too old for him, and I don't know if he remarried another 20-year-old or what, but that's basically what they do. Who the bloody backdoor cares, and you can look up, in some of the other stuff we've done, what that backdoor thing means. It's a reference to British Parliament, but and some other trouble that he got in attempting to influence elections in England. So he doesn't just do it here. But who the bloody backdoor cares that I'm a lying anti-labor authoritarian master builder? And, 'cause, 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 ' two are pretending to golf or something. I'm not sure. Oops. All right, this is there's something else going on. This is Space Force, and we're back with Pence. Kind of with that, I don't know. This is starting to step out of the particular area that we were just looking at. Maybe I'll save this for another time. I know that this is a rather short installment of In the Grip of ThermostatAnon, but perhaps some of my readers will appreciate the brevity, because we often go on for quite some time, and perhaps too excessive an amount of time. So let's save Space Force and the Modesto Manifesto Oathkeeper Mike Pence for the next installment of In the Grip of ThermostatAnon, which would it be, I suppose, In the Grip of ThermostatAnon, what, 25, since this is 24, or am I one behind? And this is going to be 25 today. We'll see. I'm checking for flies. I don't see any. So this probably is, in case I forget tomorrow when we talk about the image, this is probably not the doppelganger, because I think the doppelganger that was created by the great evil and Beelzebub for the purpose of replacing Mike Pence, right, and supporting the insurrection, always has flies surrounding him, because one of the disadvantages of being created as a doppelganger by Beelzebub is that the giveaway is the presence of flies. So this seems to be the actual Mike Pence, not the evil doppelganger Mike Pence. But even the actual Mike Pence, I should point out, was insufficient, to in his failures as hero to be selected as a potential guardian of democracy in the 21st century, and in order that democracy could survive into the 31st century. So the real Mike Pence, but still not a hero.